Welcome to the Rise Above Project. I'm your host, Joe Perroni. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, champion bodybuilder, and I've been a personal trainer for about 30 years. This podcast is about helping people with their emotional, spiritual, and physical fitness. I value strength, toughness, and truth. I despise complacency, the victim mentality, and following the herd. If you find my work to be valuable, please subscribe to my channel and tell a friend.
The question for today is, does yin-yang philosophy explain women's unhappiness? I've been reading the latest empirical evidence on women's unhappiness in the modern world. The evidence indicates that women's happiness level has dropped since 1975, and now the average woman reports being less happy than the average man. Men's rights advocates and anti-feminists are using this information as proof that the women's movement has only caused women further pain. Of course, this is typical of their small, biased, myopic mindset. But to be fair, there is a correlation between the feminist movement and the decrease in women's happiness. But that does not mean that there is a causation. There are many possible variables that may be responsible for women's unhappiness, and I will explore those in another show. But the women I have talked to, they do agree with the latest studies that have found that women are unhappier today. And one aspect that has been repeatedly brought to my attention is women's difficulty in working in what is perceived to be a masculine world. Women's adoption of masculine qualities to be successful may be causing an identity crisis. On today's show, I would like to specifically address whether women's incongruence with who they are as a person and who they are in the workplace as a cause of their unhappiness. I would also like to question the validity of the belief that women must cultivate masculine qualities to be successful. But first, let me start with a story. In the early 90s, I was receiving individual instruction on how to be a better fighter. This person had experience fighting in no-holds-barred fights in Thailand. I was able to improve my physical skills, and along the way, he also taught me about emotional fitness and psychology. Here's one of the questions that he asked of me. If you had to fight someone that you perceived as being more advanced than you, and he wanted to kill you, would you fight with your hands and feet, or would you use a hand grenade if you had one? Without much thought, I said I would prefer the hand grenade. A grenade would increase my chances of winning because it's infinitely more powerful than my hands and feet. I was confident that my answer was correct because up to that point I couldn't see it any other way. But he followed my answer with another question. What if the fight was taking place in a broom closet or a crowded bar? Obviously, the grenade was not the right tool for the job. The lesson here is that the best tool for the job isn't necessarily the most obvious and powerful. It is the one that is the most specialized and effective to achieve the intended goal at any given time. And there isn't any one tool that is effective for every problem, and therefore it's safe to say an exclusively masculine approach to business can't be as effective as a multifaceted, blended approach. Therefore, the first faulty belief that needs to be challenged is the thought that only those with masculine traits can be successful in business. The truth is much more nuanced. It overlooks that masculine and feminine traits intertwine in every area of life. Therefore, business is not exempt. Let's take a close look at the Taoist concept of yin-yang philosophy. Yin is feminine energy, and its characteristics include passivity, nurturing, receiving, cold, softness, consuming, structure, and gentleness. Yang is masculine energy, and its characteristics include action, giving, warmth, hardness, risk-taking, and production. Yin-yang philosophy is built on the observation that there are two contradictory and complementary forces that exist in nature. Both sides naturally seek harmonious equilibrium, they mutually complement each other, and they seek balance. Yin and yang energies are both needed for a fully functioning universe, and thus both need to be fully honored and respected. Yin and yang energies are not in competition with each other, and in the big picture, one is not stronger or more valuable than the other. For example, when trying to build muscle, one may assume that the yang action of progressive weight training is the correct approach. And that's true, but that's only half of the equation. Muscles are stimulated, but they are not developed in the gym. Muscles are built during sleep and rest when they are being repaired during a process called supercompensation. Therefore, the cycle of training and resting, or how my mentor, Mr. Universe Steve Mahalik, used to say it, work hard and rest easy is the correct approach. Complementary yin-yang energies is the way to build muscle. In nature, both energies support and work with each other. And let's destroy the faulty belief that feminine energy lacks strength. It is the yin energy of water that has had enough power to wear down and carve through rock to create the Grand Canyon. The yin is represented as black with a white dot, and yang is represented as white with a black dot. The dot represents that within yin, there is always a seed of yang, and within yang, there is always a seed of yin. And that's because we all have masculine and feminine qualities. However, the balance within all human beings is unique to the individual person. In order to increase one's chances of being happy and fulfilled, one must be truthful and authentic to his or her own nature. The question then becomes, does a woman really need to accentuate her masculine qualities in her work environment to be successful? And if so, what's the cost? Now, there isn't one all-encompassing answer to these questions. But in many businesses, it may appear that success is weighted toward those with masculine traits. Many women have experienced this and can attest to it. But this can be challenged, and maybe this so-called truth is fading away into history. In the Journal of Language and Social Psychology, the evidence suggests that both men and women find women to be more trustworthy, and men and women are judged to tell different kinds of lies. Not only are men perceived as telling more lies, they are perceived as telling selfish lies to advance their own agenda. Thus, men are not perceived to be as trustworthy by women or other men. Women are perceived as telling more white lies to protect the feelings of others. Thus, women are perceived by women and men to be more nurturing and caring. In data looking at over 30,000 sales calls, women close deals at an 11% higher rate than men. A study at Stanford University has found that men with feminine traits received 200% more promotions than traditional masculine men. And it gets better. The women who were able to regulate both their feminine and masculine traits were the most successful, even more than the men with feminine traits. The best leaders, coaches, and teachers tend to be those who utilize direct communication, which is yang energy. They can build rapport, which is yin energy, and have the ability to cultivate relationships, which is also yin energy. So you got 2 out of 3 on that one. According to a Pew Center's poll, women leaders are better than men at creating a safe and respectful workplace, valuing people from different backgrounds, building a consensus, better at considering the societal impact of business decisions, providing fair pay, and mentoring young employees. The evidence supporting feminine qualities in general, and specifically in business, is fairly substantial. The conclusion is that the universe rewards balance. Depending on the type of business, of course, But in general, it is the workers who are able to accept their natural blending of masculine and feminine traits that have the best chance of success. In my last show, I alluded to one of the interviews I experienced while seeking employment as a marriage and family therapist. The female interviewer didn't hire me because she wasn't comfortable with my type of masculinity. Now, I'm not exactly sure what she meant by that, but I have experienced that mindset previously in the mental health field. When I met her, we shook hands, which was really awkward because she squared up and she made a very conscious and obvious attempt to squeeze my hand as hard as she could. Then during the interview, while I was being professional, she was using profanity very casually, especially for a job interview. Now, it's not that I'm uncomfortable with firm handshakes or profanity, but it seemed like she was making an unusual effort to impress me with her masculine traits, which I felt was very awkward at best and laughable and a little pathetic at worst. Although she was uncomfortable with my masculinity, I couldn't help but think that she was fighting with her own identity crisis. In the scenario that I described, it's not that difficult to envision my interviewer as a successful person who is part of the majority of women who report being unhappier than the average woman in 1975. You don't have to have a doctorate in psychology to see through people who aren't being authentic and congruent to their nature. Evidence suggests that the cost of feminine women taking on masculine qualities is unhappiness. Being the best version of yourself not only increases the chance of success, it increases your chance of happiness in the workplace, and more importantly, happiness in life. In terms of being authentic, women should reconsider choosing to wear a pantsuit. If it resonates with you, then wear it with pride. But if you believe that your power is connected to your willingness to hide your feminine energy by trying to take on a masculine persona, then please consider something else. Over the years, people have asked me if there are any secrets to being a successful trainer for 30 years in a fickle, unpredictable business environment. In one word, the answer is connection. It's not enough to have book knowledge, and very few clients care whether I compete or not. The clients want to know that somebody cares about them, and not just about their goals, but caring about them as human beings. All of my clients know that it's not just their session, it's our session, because I am there also in a collaborative way. It is in this therapeutic alliance where empathy, compassion, and unconditional positive regard exist. And this is important because although my masculinity has always gotten me in the door, it is the aforementioned feminine energy from my yin side which has kept me in business and allowed me to be a good provider all these years. My yin energy comes very natural to me, as does my yang energy. And this includes whether I'm a personal trainer or a marriage and family therapist. It is my personal and professional opinion that to be successful in the workplace, it's best to stay true to who you are and not to be swayed by a culture that may or may not reward masculine attributes. You are more likely to be rewarded for being authentic. I can't tell other people what to think, especially women, because I'm not a woman. But I would invite you to consider that the world is changing. In general, the evidence supports that feminine energy is needed and is beginning to be actually preferred in the workplace. There is no reason to conform to outdated stereotypes, unless, of course, you want to. Although Sarah Jessica Parker is not a scholarly source, I still agree with her when she said, trying to be a man is a waste of a woman. An empowered woman should evolve into her own unique strength, which includes both her yin and yang energies, as opposed to co-opting a false masculine veneer. Even if you were able to fool other people, you can never fool yourself. This is evidenced by the legions of successful women who have reported being progressively dissatisfied and unhappy since 1975, even while having more financial freedom and power. In conclusion, one of the ways to increase your happiness is to be congruent with your true nature. Don't allow society to dictate who you are supposed to be. It's better to be disliked for what you are than to be liked for what you are not. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I am Joseph Perroni from the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.